Before we get into something, I want to talk about the connection between YBI and your guy's family. His dad was the star of Motown Mafia.
Available on Tubi.
And everything,
Yep.
except Netflix because they don't pay. They were the big fellas of the 70s. Your dad went in 77, got out in 84. But before we get into that, let's detour to a quick story about the Westies and your father, believe it or not. The Westies were the Irish mob out of Manhattan, lunatic assassins. Shout out to the guys on 6 Mile, but they were doing hits for the Gambinos, and they were just killing people on their own. Had a very treacherous, bad reputation involving taking people's lives for little to no reason and little to no money. But your dad found himself in the same federal correctional institute as his behavior was being corrected, and you were like a senior in high school. And by this time, you guys were still, living definitely upper middle class, but you weren't rich
Anymore.
Mom had started some businesses, and that's really what the money was coming from. The money from the 70s was gone, but one day that changed.
So as Pops recalls the story, there was a guy named Jerry, a Sicilian guy, who was like the...
What joint was he in?
This is in Milan now.
Okay.
Well, actually, he met Paulie in Atlanta, and then they both got transferred up to Milan. Because, that's they send you away. When you first go away, they send you far away
But
from
USP
home.
Atlanta's hardcore.
USP Atlanta, and especially in the 70s.
That's where like the Aryan Brotherhood first was doing murders. That's where they had all the French Connection.
Yeah, Vince Papa was down there with him. Actually, him and Vince got cool right before they actually whacked Vince Papa.
Vince Papa was from the French Connection.
And the rest of the French Connection crew.
And like 4 of them got killed in 2 weeks at Atlanta.
Yeah, he was.
No, there was 9 murders at Atlanta in like 2 months. They cleared the decks of the French Connection.
Crazy story. Guy comes in.
And then the head of the French Connection got out early when Reagan came in. But that's another story.
Right, yeah. I was going to say the canary in the mouth story. Pop's talking about some guy they let in who was on that French Connection case. He got to Atlanta at noon. By 3 p.m., they had already put the canary in his mouth.
And he
was out of there within 3 hours once he got to Atlanta.
So that's where they considered him one of the more dangerous people in the country. I mean, in terms of power. Potential power.
And he was down there with your man, Ike Atkins was down there. Him and Ike did time on that, the Sergeant's magazine. But anyway, so he Popson made friends with this guy, Paulie, who's the conduit, as you kind of just said. He knew the Gambinos. He knew the Genoveses. He wasn't a made man himself because I think he was only half Sicilian.
And half Irish or something?
And probably because when they get to Milan, Paulie cuts in them and says, O'Leary and the crew want to holler at you. Pop just minding his own business.
Getting ready to go home.
Getting ready to go home. And he like, O'Leary and the crew want to talk to you. They said, they want to talk tomorrow in the library. Pop's like, him and Polly's solid, so he's like, whatever, yeah. They cut into him and they say, you the big man's man, right? Pop like, who you talking about, Eddie? He say, yeah, that's my man. They say, I think we got some mutual friends. He's talking about Doc, Carmine Lombardozzi.
Ooh.
He's talking about Carmine Lombardozzi.
Back in New York, who was serving
Eddie. Same world. So he's like... And
Mickey Beckwith
and
Frank
Matthews, number 2, who did... Him and Pop got cool down in Atlanta, too.
Oh, okay.
So he like, yeah. Same people. They like, well, let me... They checked with whoever was going to be okay to make sure it was okay for them to start this business enterprise. And so the Italian guy, O'Leary, tells them, let me just run this by my Italian friends. Make sure everything.
Or the Irish guy, O'Leary.
The Irish guy, O'Leary, says, let me run my plan by some of my friends back in New York. If everything is everything. He comes back and tells Pops that it's like those guys speak very, very highly of you. So here's the thing. If you got some people outside, I got a bag. He didn't say a bag. They didn't use that word back then. The package was already in Boston.
Now, I wonder why we wouldn't know this now, but were those guys just not, they weren't known for being drug dealers, but they might have had access to stuff, but why couldn't they dump it on the East Coast? Could it have been, they took it from somebody, or no telling?
Now that you say it and with time, I think you're right, it was a gypsy bag, because when Pop and the crew ran through, like, the 10 bricks.
That was it.
That was it.
It wasn't really a plug. They had a load.
They had, and
they were known for taking and killing.
Because they didn't have to re-up. They never kept it going.
So it was 10 bricks.
10 bricks.
And that's a lot of heroin. What would that be? By the time something like that hit the street in, what was this, 82?
This would have been 82.
What, I mean, roughly, if when that goes to dimes, I mean, what is it, $1 million a key, $500,000 a key?
I mean, shit, wholesale, put a 5 on it. Put a 5 on it, wholesale.
What was the wholesale? 80?
80. So, right, that's what I'm saying. So you put a 5 on it, right? And then you can still wholesale it.
At what? At how much each?
The same 80.
Oh, and then it's still getting broke down. So it might be more like 1.5 million. Or
when it was all said, it was a good run. It was a good run.
So what was your, like, how did you know that? Because you told me something about how you were sort of vaguely involved in terms of picking up money, or
not really on that, because I'm still in high school.
Or they were knocking on the door.
But it's a couple of the OGs actually still kind of active, so I cannot. But like God rest his soul. And to the big homie over there off 12th, that Davidson 12th exit. You know, I will never forget the kindness you showed me in working with Pops, making sure that my high school days went by. The big homie over there know who he is. Assalamu alaikum and alaikum salam. God rest his soul, John the Baptist. A lot of Pops crew really.
John the Baptist?
John the Baptist.
That's a dope name.
Yeah. So, all of a sudden, once Pop gets this thing, and all he's, when we go up to visit, and he's like, it's like things gonna be a little bit better. He's like, a senior trip was coming up and shit like that, graduation. He like, don't even worry about nothing. Everything gonna be everything. And I'm like, what you mean when you get home? He like, nah, you gonna be good this last year of high school. Don't even worry about it. All of a sudden, I can say shout out to Jerry, the Boyer family, and all them. Jerry, the Baptist, and the big homie from over there. They'd just start knocking on the door, and they'd be like, "Your mom home?" Sometimes she would be, sometimes she wouldn't be. He'd be like, "This from your pops." Look in the bag, $50,000, $30,000. It's like, all of a sudden now it's back like when we was growing up. I got allowance again. We are no longer shopping at the sales rack at Hudson. We back in downtown Birmingham. You know what I'm saying? Shit got back nice. Car and all the other little amenities. My sister hadn't went to Europe yet. My sister was getting ready, but then they was able to send my sister over to school.
Your sister who became a lawyer.
Yeah, they was able to send her for a master's degree over in, she got a master's over in Europe.
Oh, and so if you're in another country, you're not getting financial aid or a scholarship.
No, it was.
So that was Westies money.
That was Westies money, and
educated a young black woman in Europe.
Young black woman. Yeah.
World is an interesting and complicated place.
At the same time, but the Westies was plugged. I mean, yeah, but now that you say it and how that run ended.
It wasn't.
It was what they call a gypsy load. They had come across these 10, however they got them.
Yeah. And probably didn't want it, because I'm sure they had people that could have sold them on the East Coast, but they didn't want anyone to know they had them probably.
I mean, they in Boston. They
right.
got
New York, Boston, or
Philly,
Boston alone.
Boston alone, and it was the bag was right.
Yeah.
But they didn't want it. No,
they needed someone in another heroin city, of which there was the East Coast, and then it was Detroit. I mean, there weren't a lot of heroin cities back then. Like
Detroit, Chicago. Did you really dump, that you knew you could put the bag in and it'd be turned into money
fast
in a few months?
Yeah, that amount too, right. Millions and millions of dollars.
And it's only a handful of guys, because this is a credit deal, and the guy you're giving the credit from is in prison.
Yeah.
So your pop's credibility.
That'd be through the roof.
Yeah, because I'm giving the guy the bag who's locked up. So I'm completely dependent on his word and his organization and his knowledge.
And he's been gone for 7 years at this point.
Yeah.
So no problems that you know about. Yeah.
No. I mean,
well, that we could mention.
We was just talking on that that whole Milan thing again. The big homie I'm talking about over there, Assalamu alaikum. He was up there. Demetrius was in Milan. I just saw the big homie KK. Shout out to the big homie KK. That shit was Wakefield was up there. Eddie O'Man there too. Muhammad, who becomes the Pakistani plug. He in Milan too.
Okay, so now let's walk into that. Okay, Eddie and later your dad was serving some of the former YBI people, but that plug came along. So take us through that library once again in the library, but there was something in Chicago. Tell us that story.
Okay, so he meets Muhammad, who's in federal penitentiary for narcotic smuggling.
You don't say.
Yeah.
What country was he from?
Pakistan.
Oh, Pakistan. Okay.
Pakistan. But now the thing is, so this is in the mid 80s they meet. I mean, early 80s they meet.
So this would have been right after the Westie thing or around the time, or hard to say? Or this was right when he was getting out?
This was right when they're getting out. He's getting out.
So the Westies thing has happened. That took, what, 6 months, 4 months?
By the time, that bag was gone by the time I graduated in April. So say the bag hit right before Thanksgiving.
Okay, so 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, the bag hit right around Thanksgiving.
10 bricks.
The crew ran through that.
On the street, okay.
They ran through that quick.
And then, so when did he get out? 84.
84.
So he still had about a little less than 2 years left once that bag was done.
Once that bag was done.
So then, leading maybe 6 months or something before he gets out, that's when Muhammad approaches him?
You know, let's get the timeline. He doesn't hook up with Muhammad actually for another 8 years.
Oh. Well, okay, but that was a thing where he had to go to Chicago and they were afraid to grab some.
Right. So, and then shout out and rest in peace to the fat man. So what ended up happening to help us bridge that gap between that Westie bag running out and him eventually getting out, Eddie gets out a year before in 83. And then starts looking out. So it was
Okay, so tell us that Muhammad, that 92?
92. So they didn't become cool from the joint, right? Vaguely stayed in touch with each other. He gets a phone call. Actually, the story goes, he had given Muhammad, my grandmother, God rest her soul's phone number. She called Pops. It's like, some funny talking guy called here named Muhammad. Say, what time can he call back to talk to you? Pops,
AC?
huh?
Did the AC come on?
I don't know, you know.
I'll just take my shirt off. Okay, so
Yeah,
Muhammad calls.
Muhammad calls. Pop like tell him to call tomorrow at 4, right? He tells Pops, I'm gonna be in Detroit tomorrow. Can you pick me up from the train station? Pop like, yeah, whatever. Pop like when he pick up Muhammad the next day. So this like 92. He then just got out because he gets violated in 89. Has to do 18 months. When they run up in this place on 6 Mile, they find a gun.
Pops.
This is following that Bahamas action. There was a lot going on, family, back in the day. There's a lot going on. My father and his friends, you know, that click right there, man. So anyway, Muhammad's like, brother, you have to help me get to Canada. I have to go back home. But here's the thing, that's what he always called Pops, was brother. He say, brother, but my Iranian friend, he got pinched in Chicago. Another 10 load. He's like, but this one, he's got 10 untouched Lebanese bricks, 90%. Muhammad says, I don't think my man, the Iranian guy, he says, I don't think he flipped on us. He's like, but I can't take no chances.
Because he just got out.
He's like, I got to get to Windsor. You got to help me get to Windsor. I got to get back to Pakistan. He gives Pop the address, location of where these suitcases are at in Chicago. He says, brother, if you can get them, we split it. Pop like, I don't know, man. Yeah. Might be hot. This show could be a suicide run.
Yeah.
And Muhammad was emphatic, though. He was like, I think my guy's stand up.
But he can't make no guarantee.
He's like, I think he's stand up, and Pop like, all right, check it out. I'm gonna put together a crew. We're gonna go check it out. I ain't gonna make you no promises. Rest in peace again, John the Baptist, Ernie, Donald. It was a white boy that hung out with Donald. I don't even know what his name was, but he was a soldier. Actually, coming to the white boy was the hero. It's about a 6-man crew he takes to Chicago. They camp out for a day, just checking out the apartment building. Pop say after a day, he ain't seen nothing. You know, Pop by this time, he been around the block and around the block and around the block. He like, this joint ain't under no surveillance. He like, this spot ain't hot. He like, tomorrow morning we going there, we going in there and get that. Now, he can't tell the crew that they going to get 10 bricks, though. He tell them there's some suitcases in there with a whole bunch of jewelry.
Why doesn't he just...
He didn't want to know. He didn't want to
too much money.
It's too much. Yeah. People start thinking all kind of crazy. All kind of crazy shit. He tells them that it's a lick, though. And these all street guys.
Yeah.
They like, Berman, as they call him, they like, Berman, we always coming across some licks.
Yeah.
And he like, it's a lick. He's like, it's a few $100,000 worth of jewelry in there. My man, yada, 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 he spends some story. Like, we just got to grab the bag, get back to Detroit, fence it. We're going to be able to eat good. They still a little bit leery. And his pop said that it was the white boys like, hey, Mr. Brown, man, fuck this, man. You say it ain't hot. What we just doing all this watching for? Let's go grab this shit and get back to Detroit. Pop's like, here go the keys. Go in there, they grab 3 suitcases. Hit 94, no issues, no. And I was living in New York at the time, and literally as soon as they got back to Detroit, I happened to just be calling to check in, and those infamous words, Pop is like, I'm gonna tell you something, boy, don't worry about nothing.
Don't worry about nothing.
And then I'm just thinking he just talking, and he say, and now that I know that I see he's starting to talk cryptically, he say, nah, Junior, I'm trying to tell you, don't worry about nothing. Nothing. We good. That was 6 months later. He would send Muhammad $4 million.
Oh wow!
So now though,
that's what they made. So they made $8 million off of the
10 bricks. Yeah, because he started.
He broke it down.
He put a 15 on it.
And sold it.
He put a 15 on it. Put a man, Fat Frank, got arrested, sold down in the projects. Brewster's. Eddie on French Road.
Oh.
Eddie was doing. Frank was doing $25,000-$30,000 a day. Eddie was doing $25,000-$30,000 a day.
Oh, so that was the last. That was so you guys.
And we had
$50,000.
Shout out to Family C. Then we had one guy who was wholesaling. That Pop would actually, because Pop never liked to sell weight. There was one guy that was real close to the family. Shout out again, Brother C out there. He would move half bricks. But again, we put a 15 on it, so that's every that 10 bricks.
So when you say put a 15, it's still before it hit the street. It's still got another 5 put on it or something.
Oh yeah, easy. So the 10 turned into 150. Right? We take 10 keys, we put a 15 on it. 10 times 15, you got 150 bricks
Of heroin.
of heroin. Better than anything on the streets.
So during that year or so, that started a whole run. Oh, so he sends them $4 million, and some more comes.
And now Muhammad back up in the mountains because
He's in Waziristan. Or
he's
something?
right at the border, right at the Afghanistan-Pakistan border.
Oh, where Bin Laden hit out at.
The tribal, he's up there. They called it the tribal territories, and so his bosses are like, "You're telling me there's a black guy in Detroit? You told him where 10 was at, and he sent us our money, and he sent some money because the whole 4 wasn't just for the bag. It was actually a payment
on some more.
He's like, what kind of, and Muhammad's telling the tribal bosses, I told you, brother, it's different. He's different. He not flat. And the whole time, Pop's driving around this town in like a Nova.
Chevy Nova.
A Chevy Nova.
On parole.
With 150 bricks that he moving.
You mean he didn't get a mink coat and throw money in the air at the strip club?
Levi.
That's not how it's done?
That's how. I mean, we let our hair down a few years later.
You do have a nice mink coat collection.
Yeah, we let our hair down. We let our hair down a little bit. But yeah, that ran from 92 to 97.
Wow. So during that whole time, the operation was, where would it come in the country at?
Mainly Northern Los Angeles, San Francisco, or New York.
And you guys would pick it up there?
Correct.
And one of the times one of your people the load got intercepted?
Twice.
Twice.
We lost Shout out to Schoolyard George, straight up soldier.
So one of your people, he took. I mean, so what? How does not everybody tell? Some people are solid organizations, but when somebody doesn't tell, you got to do something for them. Like, how would that work if someone took the fall for you guys?
I mean, okay, so two different scenarios. One guy, old guy's out here now still, Schoolyard George. Another, him and Papa did time, got cool. Papa and them come from, really, if I didn't do time with you, I don't want to do no crime with you. Kind of thing. But both times, it wasn't on our end. It would be Muhammad's carriers would get pinched. They'd roll. And then our people be walking into a death trap. So, same situation. George go out to New York to pick up the bag.
How much was it?
It was a smaller one. It was like a 5.
Okay.
Yeah. And Muhammad's mule then got popped, and he then rolled. They got the room all set up. George and everybody think, because the way it worked, the mule don't know who Courtney is.
Yeah. He just knows
And
he's
our carrier don't know who Muhammad is.
Yeah.
And that's how Pop gets is protected and Muhammad is protected, right? Because all that mule knows is somebody's going to come, and all our people know is when...
And all the mule can tell on is someone in the tribal area that they can't go get is meaningless, yeah.
Yeah, right? So, George get popped on with the 5 bricks. We have told the story. George, old school guy, he spent most of his life in jail. And he come from down there, Homestead, Miami. Hardcore, would kill a rock for the old man. And might kill anybody else just because he from that ancient times. He from the ancient times. Yeah, so when the feds pop him...
Oh, but he's living in Detroit now.
He's living in Detroit right now.
Oh, y'all gave him a house or something, right?
Okay, anything we could do, it was done. Yeah. He tell the feds, can y'all do me a favor? Send me someplace warm. He's like, y'all know I ain't, look at my jacket. And to the feds' credit, they didn't even sweat it too much. They was like, give him his 20, man, and let's keep moving on with this.
So
this guy ain't talking.
So in like 95, he got 20 years or something?
He got 20, so he did about 16.
So when did he came on, like 2011?
Right around then. Wow. Right around then. And of course, we looked out for
and
him.
You say he get a little pension now?
Always.
Man.
And then Cassandra.
So if you don't take care of people when they get in trouble, it's all well and that theoretical not snitching stuff sounds good, but like when you leave people out to dry, should it be a shock that they roll on you?
So in his case, because he's just ultra hardcore,
he wouldn't have anyway.
He was like, save your money, Courtney. Don't put me no lawyer because it ain't happening. You ain't gonna come across these kind of people no more. Yeah. He like, no, I don't need no lawyer. Make sure my commissary's straight. Make sure my people's straight. And when I come home, you got me, right? But even when Cassandra, a woman who was one of our main...
This was the second time, or a
different time in Cali.
How much you get hit with?
$850,000 in cash, picking up 7. I don't know why the accounting was the way it was, but she had 8.25 in cash on her, and she was supposed to be picking up 7. On this one, Muhammad did kind of get to us and say, no, the agents ask her, where's the rest of the money? Because by this time, I think the ticket's like 1.6 or something, and she's got 800, and the agents ask, where's the rest of the money? And so she calls the old man, and it's like, he's asking for the rest of the money. And the old man's like, oh, no, something's fucked up here. Get out of there. And she knows it's the truth. She's like, fuck that, Courtney. I'm here. I'm bringing this shit back. She continued to do the transaction.
Oh, so she could have kind of...
She could have walked out.
Probably got in some type of trouble because she had the money, but not that much.
We go to Goldfar's. Pop say, you got a lawyer out in L.A. Because you got to always hire a local lawyer.
Yeah.
And shout out to the Goldfar's. Chuck, rest in peace, Irving. Chuck say, no, I got some top-notch people. It was a narcotics case, I assume, Courtney. He's like, yeah, it's a narcotics case. He's like, all right, we got some top-flight narcotics lawyers out in L.A. That cost us another $3.5.
$3.5? Yeah. Oh, wow.
That would be $350,000. 90s money. To
like
put him
$1 million now.
To put him on the case. It was a bullshit. I mean, they had her dead to right, but they just had her on the money.
If she hadn't have kept on with it.
Right. They got her 5. They got a 5 on that year. They got it down to a 5-piece.
Boy, you get 5 years for 5 grams of crack, or you used to. So for 7 kilos of heroin.
Conspiracy, yeah. They got the conspiracy knocked down to just transport, and then she copped out on the money laundering, and they ran it together.
Now, did the feds weren't able to kind of trace back and be like, we know you guys came from Courtney Brown?
Yeah, she spun him a little bit and blamed it on her brother, who was a very, very low-level criminal who by this time is doing time in Jackson.
Oh, okay.
And she weaved this story. Because they knew. The feds be knowing. The feds told her. They said, you work for Courtney Brown. Mm-hmm. And how steely-nerved was your father must have been? Because even when these things get lost, they just set up another load, right? Well, of course, yes.
I mean, you got to be
Pop
nerves of stone.
That was hard. They criminals. They is hard.
Hardened criminals.
They are hardened criminals. I love my old man. I said sometimes he should either get Dad of the Year or contribute to the delinquency of a minor. Yeah. But those guys are hardcore. They never even think of like
it's just what we doing.
Like we in trouble. We should stop. No.
So he's paying for the lawyer. You're dealing with the fallout of that, and you're still sending the secret communications for. We need another 10.
Buy her the house. Bought her daughter a house.
So that was a $1 million loss between the lawyers and the stuff.
Easy.
Oh no, it was $850 in cash, $3 for the lawyer. So that's 1.1 plus her compensation. So you had 1.5 plus.
3 houses between her daughter and just another relative. 3 new whips when they get home.
Oh, which they got.
Yeah. Plus.
When did Dad go in? The second time?
Pops?
Yeah.
On that case?
Yeah.
That run.
Ongoing.
That wouldn't happen to 04.
And when did she get popped?
No, that was still in the heart of the run. That was like 95, 96.
So when she got out, Pops was still out.
Yeah.
Whereas George got out right around the time your Pops was getting out.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a risk, like even if you're a soldier like that, what if while George is doing that 20, Pops gets killed, or he gets a life no parole,
or he
might not come home to nothing just because it ain't like that.
Yeah, but again, it's hard in today's world for the younger audience. I mean, the older guys I know get it. It was some guys cut from that cloth back then. They just.
That's what it was.
It just is what it is, We didn't. In fact, Schoolyard George. They'd be at the hookup table and shit, and they used to especially drive Eddie Jr. crazy. Because when we'd be sitting around bushing, he'd look at me, Junior, we all going to the jailhouse behind this shit. Niggas getting all this money. You think we ain't going to the jailhouse? And we'd be like, man, would you stop saying that? Oh, I'm telling y'all boys, we all going to the jailhouse behind this shit. And I'm telling you, and he'd be like, man, don't say that no more. But it's the truth. Look at all this money. You think we ain't going to the jail? So going to he was different, but even Cassandra Sean, and you got to know in my case, in all our cases, they know I'm money laundering. They know I'm the one getting the money to Muhammad.
You're part of the conspiracy.
If
it all goes super duper bad, you could get 20, 30 years along with everybody else.
Everybody, and they knew about Eddie. They knew about Big Homie.
And Eddie Senior's back in the joint for his own conspiracy, but long.
Eddie Senior been back in the joint, But they knew about Eddie Jr.
He pass?
In 95.
Oh, so he passed during that time.
He passed right in.
Was your dad and him he must have been in contact, but he wasn't going to see him. That would have been too hot.
They talk maybe every other day on the phone. Okay. I mean, I talked to Eddie on the phone
400 times. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Because he was all about to actually think he was going to get out. He had a couple things overturned. But Eddie Jr. and the old man are doing a lot of business during this Pakistani thing. And, if George tells, if Shauna tells, if her mom tells, everybody going to jail.
For a long time.
What about you? They used to assure me that I would only get 10 because I had no priors. And I was a college boy.
How
that would be their counsel. They'd be like, Junior, they only going to give you 10 because You ain't never been in trouble
were
before.
How shook were you when any of this stuff was happening? Or just because the people around you were so calm and seemed in control, you didn't get that shook? But you had to have been somewhat.
I was concerned.
But you were also in your alcohol and other things.
I was. I
You were
definitely
numbing yourself.
I numbed myself a lot to not think about, in this,
the gravity of your actions.
In our fictionalized book, That Big Man on Campus, I got a line in there I write to try to get people how to say from 1984 when I started working for Pops to the year 2000 when I stopped working for Pops. Every day for 20 years thinking about when this shit goes south, I'm getting the fuck out of this country. I ain't playing these games with these people. That's a lot to live with, day in, day out, because when
your father doesn't even drink.
He don't even smoke, he never drank and never smoked a cigarette.
So that he didn't need to numb himself. He just was.
Because he's a criminal.
Yeah, but he wasn't until the age of 30.
He wasn't fucking with Eddie, fucking with the big man though. Once he, but as you said, they'd have to read the book. I think that
Big Man on Campus, link below.
Motown Mafia.
Motown Mafia.
That incident with Pops when he was a square and was driving the bus during the riots.
So yeah, okay. So let's now we're gonna go back to 1967, Detroit riot. Your dad has made it to the age of 30, being a total law-abiding citizen. Not only has he not sold any drugs, he never even saw any because he wasn't hanging around people doing drugs. He
never saw drugs till he was 30 years old.
And so the riot happens. Your father is a DSR, so that's what, Detroit?
Public transportation, right?
And he's a bus driver, but he's kind of like a union steward.
He's a steward. He's a big shot in the little bus driving community.
And at that time, for a black male, I mean, he kind of was getting towards that ceiling of what they were going to let him do.
Oh, he was about there. I mean, he could have took, maybe the union could have took him a little bit.
More higher, but not much.
No.
So, comfortable, but a blue-collar, hard-working life. And what happened? Tell us about that incident.
The riots are occurring.
And he's transporting prisoners?
He's
participating in the American system.
He is helping the military. He's taking prisoners to Belle Isle. He's also driving around the National Guard. He's the square. Mm-hmm. And he's got his wife, my mom, shout out to mom, my sister, shout out to
sister?
My sister. And the same soldiers that he is transporting around when he's working, he's off work now, but still in bus driver uniform. And they get pulled over telling him about he's out past curfew.
They knew it was the same soldiers?
Not the same soldiers. But when I say, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they like pulled guns on him, put guns all in the car with his
wife
and kids.
His whole family.
The whole family. I was, but I can't remember. I was 68. I was 4 years old. Yeah, I was 4 years old when it happened.
67.
Yeah, 60. So, and he's like, wait a minute. I'm the good guy. I'm one of the good guys. And you guys are putting your guns on me and threatening me and cussing at me in front of my family and waving guns all around. And this is what happens by playing by the rules. And when we psychoanalyze the professor, the field marshal, that was the day I think he said, fuck the rules and all this, because this don't make no sense. I've been right my whole life. I never broke the law. And you do this to me in front of my family. And he ain't been a law-abiding citizen since, or until the last 12 years since he got out. Yeah. Can traumatize you.
Yeah.
Traumatize you, and then
and that's when the events of Motown Mafia began to occur.
18 months later, his man has met John Claxton and is getting to it, and when his man is like, if you want to come fuck with me. And the rest becomes Motown Mafia. But you were headed somewhere with the YBI thing before we backtrack.
Okay, so now we're gonna backtrack to Eddie Sr. So your dad, they keep him into 84, and then he gets out and he gets into his Bahamian cocaine thing, which is another story. But Eddie gets out in 83.
Yeah, March 83.
And oddly enough, it's funny. 1 degree of separation in Detroit, and I mean, I certainly was a low-level criminal, but I was nobody. But oddly enough, my best friend in middle school, who I met, he came back from.
And you lived not far from Eddie Building.
Yep. Well, my father grew up in Eddie's building.
That's
his
cool.
his grandparents were the managers of it,
Yeah.
which we talk about in the clip.
Yeah.
But so my best friend, he was black, but his mother had 3 sons with his Mexican guy named Canales. And I remember when I met my friend, he was like, yeah, I just came back from oddly like Wyoming or Colorado. They had some relative out there. He was like, yeah, my mother was in prison for a heroin conspiracy, but the guy in the conspiracy was Richard Canales, and that was Eddie's conspiracy. So take us about so Eddie gets out, the YBI, the first indictment hit, but of course, well, that was before the laws got really draconian. So it was still going on. People had gotten in and gotten out. I mean, YBI was still in effect.
They were just coming in when because.
But not everyone went in, and then some had already gotten out, and
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. So what was Eddie's run, and how does it tie in with your I know him to Pep?
Shout out to Mr. Cooper. What up?
And
what up?
Brett and all
I'll
that.
let your man. Come on, man. Come get on the pod with us. I'm just saying, man. We got
Pep, I need you.
People be talking crazy, but don't. You got a great story, man. You need to come holler at your man. Holler at Al. He promised us actually, Al. Last time we talked, he did.
Okay.
He did. He promised us. It's been a long. He didn't. He didn't give us a time.
Man, when I mentioned Pep's name to Benzino, to show you the power of the YBI thing, I was in Atlanta years ago, and I was interviewing Benzino, and Cavari was like, "Oh yeah, it's my man. He's from Detroit." Blah blah blah, and Benzino just says something. People reference comedy. He's like, "Oh yeah, YBI something," and I was like, I was like, "Even Boston, did you know Pep and them and Brett?" And he was like, he looked at me like he saw a ghost. He was like, "How the hell do you know who the Pep is?"
Yeah.
And then so that kicked off a thing where they did a bunch of parties. The Columbus. What was it called in Boston? There was the Columbus Crew.
Yeah.
And that's who YBI messed with. Brett and them went out there. And that was Eddie's bag probably, right? Or
Well, one of them, the big one, so let's get to Eddie's bag, how it gets to Boston, right?
Yeah.
So Eddie locked up again with all these cast of Detroit characters. They were all at Milan, say between 82 and 88. One of them also was a guy by the name of Richard Wakefield.
whose wife, that's quite a story, whose wife disappeared after the Thailand thing, but that's another story. Okay,
Right.
They're in Milan.
Eddie and Wake then put together a scheme. Wakefield.
Is that involving Canales or that came later?
That's how he ends up getting to Canales.
okay.
Right? So Wakefield has got a plug to be able to bring this shit out of Thailand. That's gag. 90% hook up. Him and Eddie
four.
are, yeah.
Number 4.
Number 4. Dragon Pearl, number 4.
As Doc Davis taught us, take the number. He said take a kilo of the number 4 and a kilo of the
Number 3 crude.
from Turkey.
Yeah.
And mix them together and give you the hit and the hold.
The hit and the hold and Doc Master. Yeah. But that's it. They gave the hit and the hold because people always complain, right? That China White gonna get on high as a kite.
Go away.
But it go away. All right.
The Turkish isn't.
Gonna keep them level, but it ain't gonna never get them to that euphoria that they're looking
putting
for.
it together.
And then there you go. So anyway, Wake and Eddie come out. They plotting. Wakefield's still in jail. Eddie come home. Boom. Through a whole bunch of stuff that we have to go all the way through. How Eddie ends up on Dexter. His aunt's dating. Short version of it. Eddie's auntie, God rest her soul, Lisa, is dating a guy, Jabba the Hutt. What up, Tracy? Shout out to Jabba the Hutt, Tracy, who lives across the street from Mr. Cooper.
Tracy Sledge?
Tracy Sledge.
Okay.
Who lives across the street from Mr. Cooper, right?
Pep.
Bunch of childhood mischief we already in before the big man come home. But when the big man...
Which involves Demetrius Holloway.
Huh?
Oh, no, that came later. Demetrius came later.
Yeah, who was also in Milan with this cast of characters, but no. So, Tracy and Pap and all them guys, Brett and them running around that neighborhood when Eddie old man come,
And those guys were those were the little kids, or not little kids, but the young guys that were the ones running the spots for YBI.
When you look
Pep
at your
and Brett were the
rolling
guys
dock.
who were 14 with the stacks of money like that in 81, 82.
They're the real YB. I mean, he Pep original.
Yeah.
Original. Yeah. Brett is in from your doc. Sidney
Rest in
Dope,
peace.
Rest in peace. Definitely rest in peace. When he say original YBI, that ain't no overstatement.
No.
That's factual. So through this nexus, Eddie, old man, basically like, you've been doing some slick shit where I've been locked up anyway. But that's a whole different issue.
Oh, the weed and the heroin.
Right. So this slick shit that you've been doing, and Eddie was talking about it on his show the other day. He's like, Eddie's old man that got me kind of drunk, and I kind of folded under wine pressure. And I'm like, Eddie tore up the car, and he's been taking the dope from Treacherous, and he's been giving it to those guys on Dexter.
Oh, you told.
I didn't really. Treacherous really had told, but it all happened. The big man got to it all in one night because like Treacherous was over there at the house, and he told more about that. I really just kind of confirmed that.
Cooperating.
I was a cooperator. And the big man here, he took a different. He was the good cop. You want another glass of wine, Junior? Yeah. What exactly you and Eddie Baby been? What you and Eddie Baby been doing? Because Treacherous was saying some things, and I'm trying to figure out what exactly been going on since I've been away. But anyway, so Eddie Baby, when he come back, his old man like, you've been up to some real slick shit. But long story short, who moving all this shit you been getting? He said them boys off Dexter. Tracy and them, because Tracy is doing some shit with a guy named Gene Hackman.
Oh, now it's original YBI too.
Who Hackman running a guy named Maurice Bell's bag. Maurice Bell is Butch Jones's nephew. So Hacky working for
he had like a Rolls Royce and all that back there.
Yeah, them niggas, whatever you want to say, I think them niggas ran up the bag. Yeah. I mean, whatever, different size, different camps, but credit must be given where credit is due. Those guys ran up the bag. They did. But Detroit, small city, you got. Anyway, so Tracy, they're getting.
It's not that it's small. It's only so many people doing that level of stuff. Yeah.
So Eddie explains to his father that what we've been doing is these young boys got a big bag over there and they're getting stupid money, but we got a insider inside they clique. So we just been putting our bundles with their bundles, but the fiends is coming back saying they like our dope better than they like, because they'll be like, we want that other shit y'all had. And now luckily the only person who knew why they were saying that was Hacky, was Gene Hackman, God rest his soul.
He passed.
He did pass.
I saw him at the gas station. That was been 10 years
Cousin
ago.
Rhonda was just here. Yeah.
Oh, that's his people?
Yes, his people, yeah. All Cascade, all Winter,
he's from
Winter
there.
Walter,
Okay.
all that. So Eddie, old man, like, well, them niggas want some action. Eddie Baby told you, said, to be honest, Pops, them niggas dying for some action. They begging for some action. He introduced, he's like,
because they're in the Butch and them are in the prison at this point.
Butch in jail by now.
But that had just happened. So they had this massive street presence, this machine, so you need something to feed the machine. So that's the desperate, who got Kilo, because they can do Kilo every couple days or something.
If it's good, they had the click, they had the infrastructure to make it happen.
So they run through multiple kilos a week in dimes, so they need someone they can feed it.
So Eddie say he get Tracy, introduce Tracy to the big man. Tracy and the big man get to talking, and Tracy now is dating Eddie's sister-in-law. Yeah, Eddie's sister-in-law, Lisa. That rest of so Tracy but really I'm gonna tell you, big man, for what you looking for and the kind of action you trying to move, it's my man you need to talk to. And he's talking about Pep. Pep, this all happened a few days. Pep ended up getting introduced to the big man.
Pep has, we got the link to his book, Bound
by Honor,
Torn by Greed.
Great book, great read. This guy, Pep, and just not to pressure you to, he's hustled with Raymond Peoples, Butch Jones, WW, and Eddie Jackson. His resume is
YBI and then some.
And then the big man, right? Yeah. He's seen a lot. He's seen a lot. So the first.
And lived, it looks good, lived to tell about it, reputation intact. Nice
Reputation
guy.
type, nice guy, family just.
Shout out to his son, Luxury Mart.
Just saw him actually at a book fair. They got some great YBI t-shirts.
Oh, he's selling wine too. Luxury wine.
Got a niece that's an author, doing some good work there in the urban publishing world. So yeah, shout out to the whole family over there, the Cooper family and them. So Eddie Old Man give him 50 quarters. He tells the big man.
So it's like 7 ounces. 7 times. Oh no.
50.
No.
That's 50 times 7. Each quarter is 7.
Oh, 4. That's 11 or 12.
It's half a
12
brick,
ounces.
right?
Yeah, 12 ounces.
Almost half a brick.
Yeah.
That was half a brick. And
Yeah, 12 and a half ounces.
Pep tells the big man, I'm taking this to Boston. The big man's response is, I don't care if you take it to the moon, just
Bring my money.
bring back my bread.
Because they could probably, make double, triple.
So that's where Benzino and them talking about Pep and
Columbus
crew.
or Columbus dogs, or Columbus Point dogs or something.
But Pep run through the bag so quick in Boston.
Was Brett in charge of the crew or Pep was in charge of the crew?
In Boston
Yeah,
or
in Boston.
to my knowledge, and so anybody if I'm wrong, please forgive me. I only know
Pep had the bag.
I only know Pep.
Oh, but Brett went with WW, so
now
they,
that sounds
they had
about
another
right.
bag.
That sounds about right.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That sound about because by this time WW got arrested, so it's already passed.
Oh, right. Oh, that's what it was. The Boston pipeline was already set up.
From
Because
WW.
WW and Brett. So they already had the people out there. So now Brett probably took Pep back out there and was like, this is another guy from Detroit.
I think in Pep's book he says it was WW that took him to Boston.
But when he went back with Eddie's stuff, WW was dead.
Was already dead, yeah.
So that was, okay. So he already had his own, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And Brett probably went back out.
But
Brett might have been in prison for that shooting at that.
Exactly, yeah.
A lot happened.
It was a lot. This town. But then Pep decided he don't need to go back to Boston no more with the quality of that skag that they was getting. And he sets up.
And that's the Richard Canales stuff to go back to.
No.
Oh, that's in Wakefield.
That's Wakefield.
Okay.
He set up shop headquartered over off Narren Park.
Oh, yeah. That's Ted Dexter, yeah.
Yeah, and
Grand River, Livernois.
Pep doing 50,000 a day. You know, I got the residual. I'm driving Eddie over there a lot of times to pick up
And
the
who
money.
was trying to? And there was a lot of attempts on Pep's life. Who was that?
I won't get into that, but him and Butch, the long story, much documented.
Yeah.
Him and Butch had fell out, and there was a whole lot of street
But there was
politics.
numerous attempts on
numerous.
But he got through it, and he was turning the money in.
When it come to with Eddie,
Who was picking up the money?
Eddie
Did
Jr.
you ever? Oh, Eddie.
All the time. That's what I'm saying. We were because the meeting spot would be Tracy's parents' house. They're on Leslie,
Which is one of the nice blocks.
very nice block. Nice block. Still to this day.
Yeah.
So every day he was turning. I know. I mean, I ain't telling people what I think.
Because you might. Sometimes you were there.
3-4 times out the week.
Yeah.
3-4 times out the week.
And that's 7 days with heroin. That's 7 days a week.
Yeah. And that lasts
So 300,000 a week. So that's over $1 million a month.
easy. Oh, I remember I saying Pep and Big Steve. Shout out to Five. They threw a great Christmas party that year to celebrate the fruits of their labor.
And at this point, these guys are what, 22 or something?
At most.
At most. Okay.
At most. Because if we're 17, 18, they're a few years older than us.
20. They might not even be 21.
Right? Wakefield people eventually, though, some tragedy shit happened. One of the mules on the way back from Thailand, balloon bust. Or I think, don't quote me on this. Either the balloon bust inside of them on their way back from Thailand.
Oh, no, you said she was getting high.
Or she tried to throw up, or she threw up one of the balloons to get high. And she dies on the plane.
And that was the cover story was it was like a black church excursion, women going to Thailand,
missionary worship,
and they swallow a bunch.
Each one of them would swallow a brick, a pound. You can swallow a pound.
Or a pound, half a brick.
Yeah.
So they had done that multiple times.
Okay. For a 2-year run, 18-month.
Oh, they going every couple months, every 2 months.
Yeah.
Oh, so they had probably done it 15 times or 12 times or something, 10 times.
So when the woman dies, They arrest, of course, everybody on the plane who's with the church group.
And the wife disappears.
Which is Marion Wakefield included. But she makes bond.
In the wind.
She gets the win.
But husband goes to the pen.
No, he ain't even out the pen. Richard Wakefield's still in jail.
Did he get a case, or because she disappeared, it cut off the tie to him?
It cut off the tie to him, and
she never was seen again?
Best report we got, she left with about $5 million.
And when did he get out?
Wake would end up getting out late 80s.
A few years later.
We was already on French Road then.
Did
so
he?
90.
Did he hook back up with her, or you don't know?
No, I mean, she never...
Surfaced.
She did the Frank Matthews, John Claxton.
Oh, so she didn't. She kept hubby from getting in trouble, but she also.
She took that $5 million and went ghost.
I guess you can't blame her, but.
No, I mean that was a smart play. That was the play. So now,
it's a high level game.
Now,
so for those of you so mystified about Frank Matthews. You know, to be operating at that level, like your father was a great father to you, but if a situation would have occurred where he had to disappear and not contact you guys, he would have done it because what's the point of contacting you if it's just going to make all of you go to jail?
Right. I mean, but this is where, and rightfully so, the people who ain't in this world, but just so to get some insights from those in the world. There could be situations where I love my family, but I can't fuck with my family because this thing has gone sideways, and all I can do is hurt you guys by trying
and yourself
and ourselves by trying to show how much love I got for you. So it just
so Frank Matthews is far from the only person that did that. He's the most famous.
Two just right here in Detroit, John Claxton
and
Marion Wakefield,
and that was a big and that was more recent. That was 85 or something.
85. Marion got in the win with $5 million.
Wow. And what age would she have been roughly at that time? Was she your mother's age?
Right. So she would have probably been in her mid-50s.
Okay.
But
they had been in the game forever.
Since the 70s. If you read some of those
So she had been in the game since she was 35 or she was 20 years deep or something.
They all, they kin with Felix.
Probably 60.
They family with Felix Walls.
Oh.
That whole family, heavy hitters.
He's out, right?
Felix Hall.
Have you seen him, or where's he at?
Last
Michigan?
I heard, he was in Wisconsin.
Oh, did his daughter ever want to do something? Well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, but shout out to a true whale, Felix Walls. But yeah, Walls and Wakefield is all family.
Okay.
So yeah, the family is heavy hitters. But now the big man got a problem.
He's got this machine.
Right, but we ain't got no
work.
We ain't got no name. And
we got a factory and employees, but no car parts to assemble.
And it's Eddie Jackson. He won't buy anything if he can't get it. He only dealt with John Claxton, the Gambino family, and now
the Westies. Oh no, that was your dad. And then now Thailand.
So you're talking about all 90 proof plus connects.
Just coming untouched.
Untouched. He won't. The world is sending him samples because a lot of people want to hustle with him. Be like, I can't fuck with that.
He don't want to get nothing that's come into town already.
No,
He's
exactly.
Getting it from foreign entry point.
From source. He sent a guy. Oh fuck! I guess it's an indictment. I put his name. I believe it's a guy named Al Finch who was on the original indictment with those guys in the '70s. Al Finch.
Oh, on your day on the
big 32-man indictment. Okay. He then went down to Mexico.
Was he a white guy?
Black guy. Okay. And talked to Richard Canales.
How did he meet him?
Also in jail. I think they was all in Leavenworth.
So Canales was a Mexican national.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cause
wonder when
him and Eddie were cellmates in Leavenworth.
He must have had those kids with her because they were older than my friend. He must have had those kids with her in the 70s. Before he got whatever sent him in when he met them, he probably had the kids with her before that.
Yeah, he had to, right?
Yep.
Made the kids.
Yep.
So.
Because they grew up in Chicago. Okay, okay.
Al, go talk to Canales because they know.
Shout out to Earl, my guy.
Yeah. And Canales like, I don't know. Basically, I guess Al felt he was getting spent. And Canales
and this is in Mexico.
This is in Mexico. Canales say, well, what's happening with my old bunkie, Eddie? Say, yeah.
They were in Leavenworth was nasty. Well, that's back when they only had
like
Leavenworth,
6, 7,
Marion, Atlanta, Lewisburg.
Yeah. Milan.
But that wasn't a USP. That was a FCI. There was a medium.
Yeah.
There was a medium, but all those other ones we're talking about are USPs.
Leavenworth was it?
Penitentiary, as opposed to a correctional institute. So they were max. Leavenworth, Atlanta, Lewisburg, Marion.
Those were top level, right?
Yep, and then there had Lompoc.
Terry Hutt.
Terry Hutt and Lompoc.
Yeah.
Those were the 6 max security. So they started your dad off in Atlanta, Eddie and Leavenworth. They didn't let them be together.
No.
And then your dad, when he was getting ready to come home, they broke him down to the medium, to the Milan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the same with Eddie.
FCI,
Yeah.
Federal Correctional Institute. Yeah.
I just learned something after all these years with all these criminals. I never knew.
Oh no, I had to figure that. I mean, yeah, the max securities are you. So if you see Terre Haute USP, even though I guess now that's some type of snitch there, or I don't know, but Atlanta USP, Lompoc USP. Then now they got Victorville, aka Victimville USP out in California, where all the Serenos are at. But and then you have the Federal Correctional Institute, which is Milan and the medium and lows.
Huh. So I'll come back, tell Eddie, I saw your bunkie, Canales. I know he doing something, but he ain't really trying to holler at me like that.
He didn't know him, or just whatever.
They knew him, but like that.
Not to engage in an
But he
international
was
narcotics conspiracy.
Right, he was like, but he asked about you, kind of like,
what's up with him?
you should tell your man to holler at me.
I'll trust him.
Eddie holler at them. They put it together. They get they get a sample in.
Now this would have been Mexican mud, or
This was mud, but it was right.
How?
I think 90. I think it was still taking a 90.
so that would have been maybe similar to the Turkish stuff.
Yeah, it's a brown. I think people's problem with Mexican, and I'll be honest, I never dealt with it.
Is it like harder to
Like-
shoot up or something? I mean, like, did it get when that was being sold? Was it in a bag as powder, or it was gummy?
It was kind of gummy.
So
was
you
the
couldn't
problem.
snort it.
Well, no, you could still work
How
with
many
it. I mean,
people
I've seen
were-
people at a hookup table with it. It's the same process, and it's still
It's
the
just a
same.
little more process.
It's a
How
lot.
many people is a little sad? Like, I mean, you weren't hanging out with the users, I guess, but like, what back then? I mean, was everybody shooting it, or were they smoking it, snorting it, or had to be pretty strong? Once you put all that cut on it, you had to shoot it.
I would still say to this day, on this phenomenon of fentanyl, that the heroin customer base always been about 50-50 snorters shooters.
Oh, okay. Do you graduate or I guess it's like cocaine and crack. Some people never graduate to the other form.
Well, two people.
Because shooting that's got to be that moment in a drug addict's life where that needle's hovering over your arm and you're like, oh, this is another.
There are people snorting heroin who've been snorting it for years and you never knew it.
And they never jumped up to.
They never, yeah, and they.
But you got to be in a city where it's still got to be a little more pure.
Yes, I mean,
Like the stuff you're selling on French Road, you can snort.
yeah, I would say half the people there on French Road was definitely snorting it.
Okay.
And that's how some of those guys were able to keep their jobs at the plant for 30
Oh,
years.
I know. Now listen, I know many of my friends,
Yeah.
Well, like Detroit is a place, if you're an addict, probably for 50, 60 years, you never had, I mean, if you really were a real, like, Detroit maybe if you're a suburbanite and you only knew one place to get it, you might go bowl for a few days, but if you're a Detroit resident,
Nah.
you could always get it.
You can always get a blow.
Yeah.
You can always get a blow in this town. And actually, for a long time in this town, not only could you get a blow, you could get a first-class blow because despite like all the money that we're talking about, this particular circle of ours was
That's
getting
just one circle.
That's just one circle. There's 5 other circles moving the crowd at the same pace. You know what I mean? So you know this town. You know it well. So Eddie and Canales hook up. Canales get them to test it. Tester come back right. Then unfortunately,
Did they get any loads in?
no, because Tracy and Pep, when they went, they got popped.
Oh, they went to pick it up.
They went to pick
From
it up.
where?
Tulsa. Again, Pep
Boy,
details all this.
That
Tulsa, Oklahoma was the drop off.
man, to be even now, guys, I know say, I'm getting on the road to such and such. I always think like, man, like you're young black males from Detroit.
They were smart before the feds had already.
But I mean, it's just they look out of place.
Yeah.
And then what? You got to drive from Tulsa to Detroit.
Yep.
Of course, back then the feds,
had
the roads weren't full of police like they are now. I guess
They had bugged Eddie's 500 SEC.
Oh, they were
and
expecting.
bugged all.
Oh, did they get hot from the first run with Wakefield?
This is still a question that we are all not sure about.
Or they just figured, or it's probably very easy to get a tap on him. All the judges has to agree to it.
Eddie had got one little brief run in between Wakefield people getting popped and him starting with Richard Canales. He was dealing with this Eastern Market crew.
Italian?
Old man Simon and this guy Fat Joe. Old man Simon go back with Sam Norber and them Purple Gang.
Oh,
shit,
okay.
right.
Sam
and
Norber.
They not sure whether they got hot
dealing with them
or from the first run,
because the Detroit mob, the Eastern Market specifically, had that huge numbers case, and the way they got them is they bugged a whole block. It was something cutting edge for the FBI at the time. I talk about this in Detroit Mob Confidential.
Okay.
Shout out to Scott Bernstein.
Shout out Scott. Holla at your man.
He's in Youngstown doing some mob stuff. He'll be back Wednesday, so we'll see him.
Yeah.
So they bugged a whole block outside.
Okay.
So those guys would go. They would either go in the freezer to talk, or they would go outside, like on the open street. And for those not from Detroit, Eastern Market still is the area where they're like the wholesale produce vendors. So if you have a Kroger supermarket and you need 700 pounds of carrots, like that stuff is there. Yeah. You need 40 sheep chopped up, that stuff is there.
Lobsters, all that.
Yeah, so it's a huge, if you're from New York or Chicago or something, it's like whatever you have there, like the
meat district in New York.
Meat and vegetable district.
Yeah.
And a lot of mob activity. And they bugged a whole block, and that led to the last black Italian, at least, indictment for numbers. I'm sure. Well, I don't know what went on after that, but whatever.
Shout out to Carl Martin. We have to get Carl back on the pod. We did some good work.
I want
Ed Martin, one of his last, last big number men in the city.
So they bugged the whole block. Yeah, right. So to your point, who knows? They could have, because that Eastern Market was always, because they had been running out of there forever, and just like your dad, the mob guys, it's like, well, yeah, we're the Mafia in Detroit, and we operate out of Eastern Market, so it is what it is. We know you're down here, and we got to still do what we're doing. So maybe they did get hot from that.
That's what
That's the only thing that makes sense.
That's what, the way it played out, it looked like Eddie and them had got hot before the sample got from Canales, which means, you're right, it came up.
Because they were on it immediately.
They was all over them. So they marked the car. They knew from the wiretap that Pep and them was taking a Renault. And then
is silent.
And to show you how fucked up it is, Black Butch, shout out to Black Butch, shout out to the Black Dispatch. He ends up getting on this indictment not because he's even involved, because Butch doing something on his own, but the car is bugged, and Eddie said, Butch, do me a favor and rent a car.
Oh, and that's the car they got hit. How much time did Butch have to do?
On that bullshit?
Yeah.
Like 18 months, 2 years.
Okay, well, that ain't too bad. But they could have, he probably got lucky.
And that's how him and Pep met, was going to jail on that same.
He didn't even know them.
He didn't even know them. That's what I'm saying. He didn't even know them.
He rented them a car, though.
He rented them the car. And,
but that's the game. And people might think, well, why wouldn't you get a stranger to rent a car? But what stranger?
What stranger? And why would I
who's going to rent a car? And then anyone who's not in your inner circle, but who's in the street, and is like, oh, Eddie Jackson wants me to rent a car for a YBI kid to drive out of state. Oh, I want it. I want in. I'm going to follow him and rob him or something.
That's some bullshit, right? Yeah. So, but the feds marked the car because I believe Pep and them picked up the car right up there at Leslie and Dexter.
Car rental place on Dexter?
No. I said they dropped. Eddie.
Butch rented it and brought it there.
Yeah, and I don't think Eddie Jr. I think actually dropped the rental off.
But it was in Butch's name.
But it was Butch's name, right? And the feds put the infrared shit where they could track the car with the helicopter.
Oh, that was cutting edge for them.
So they were
using the new technology.
They was on Pep and Tracy when they left out. They followed them the whole.
And what did they go pick up? How much, or you don't know?
It wasn't actually that wasn't even the run. That wasn't even the big run. I think they were picking up like just a few ounces.
Oh, just to a larger sample, basically.
A larger sample.
Oh, so they didn't get
Actually, they didn't get. Tracy's shout out to HUD again. From the way the story's been recounted by numerous people and in his book and Tracy.
Born by honor, torn by grief. Bound by honor, torn by grief.
He survived the pat down all the way to the Fed building. And
He had a couple ounces on him.
On him. And some kind of way on their way in the Fed building, he threw the shit in the trash can. He was able to finagle and actually, they never found any dope. They never found any dope.
So what was the case? Was it a big, had they discussed kilos or like what was the
conspiracy?
But of how much?
Or
they weren't
the kilo deal.
Oh, but they didn't even get a kilo.
They never got no dope.
Well, I mean, they picked it up, but it was only a few ounces. They didn't even pick up a kilo.
The feds never got in possession.
Right, no, I understand, but they didn't even pick up a kilo.
Correct.
So how much time did Eddie got kind of slammed.
Eddie got nailed.
But he was on parole.
Yes.
So they're like, yeah.
That was a double problem. So he still had all that tail from the first case.
So back then, you got out after about a third of the time, but you had the tail.
You had that tail. So he still had all the tail from the first case.
And the new case wasn't even that bad.
Wasn't even that bad.
If he had waited till he was off parole, but that wasn't his stilo.
No. But he ended up, that's how he was going to be able to get out by 95 because the tail time was gone and then they actually had been able to overturn. The feds had a really fucked up case.
Go on, no dope, yeah.
No. Yeah.
So Eddie did about 10 years, but he died. In
So,
97?
87. He died? No, he died in 95.
Oh, he died in 95.
So Eddie Jr. gets indicted. His father gets indicted. Mom gets indicted. Auntie gets indicted for fucking answering the phone with Richard Canales on the phone. Richard Canales calls over to the
Eddie's
building.
mom or your mom? Eddie's mom.
Eddie's mom. Don't say that. Mom will fucking kill me. No. My mother's never been to prison. Never. Fucking upstanding business.
No, I know she had, but no, I know. I didn't know if somehow they just
She was
tried.
traumatized when they put in the newspaper back in the 70s. Eddie Jackson around a 5 Carrot caught driving Teresa Brown's Eldorado in Pennsylvania, pulled over.
Oh, that's right. That was her car.
That was her car.
For more on that story, watch Motown Mafia.
Yeah. She was like, why they put my name in the paper with that bullshit?
Well, they want to put the pressure on the family. I mean, it's funny now having read about so many cases and knowing from the perspective, if I was a federal agent, I would want to put pressure. I'd put everyone's name just because it adds to the chance that one of those people are going to be like, oh, y'all got me mixed up in this. I'm telling, because I didn't know. I didn't sign up for this.
I tell you, so yeah, and then Pap Tracy, Black Butch, Cohen, the lawyer.
The lawyer guy?
Dave Rice, the owner of Packard Pontiac, because Eddie had bought so many cars from Packard Pontiac.
What did they indict the lawyer for?
The accountant. That's their lawyer.
Oh, accountant. You said
the
accountant.
accountant. The accountant. Dave Rice, the owner of Packard Pontiac. Eddie had bought so many cars from Packard Pontiac once he got out. And he had been buying cars from Dave Rice in the 70s before he went. They said Eddie Jackson's got to have an interest in this car dealership.
How many cars did he buy?
He was like, no, he just buys a lot of cars from me. And we got a relationship for multiple years. So, and then
there was a basketball.
Richard Canales.
There was a basketball player involved because the way I came across when I called you and was like, didn't you say the name in the case was Canales? And you said, yeah. And I said, that was my best friend's stepfather's name. And I was reading Sports Illustrated, and it was a story about, it was like a Detroit basketball player who like messed his life up with drugs, and he was somehow in that case. I don't remember his name. I'll find it on the internet.
Yeah.
So maybe that was Al. Who was Al Finch?
Al Finch was some guy who hustled with them back in the 70s.
It was.
Now, he might have been. I don't know if he had a basketball history. It's possible.
Might have been. Yeah, it was. I'm gonna look that up because it was some guy that could have went to the NBA, but he drugged, blah blah blah. Like, and
it could have been. I don't know that, but that's very.
I'm gonna find that story.
It's very possible. So then they indict Canales too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Was he in? Oh, he was in Mexico.
Let's see, because we are live here on the block at the studio.
He was in Mexico, so we can wrap up.
Yeah, they tried to. Eddie beat the case in Mexico.
What about? Did they extradite Richard Canales?
Yeah, I think Canales ended up doing. He did his time in Mexico.
Oh, If that even counts.
But Eddie beat the case in Mexico, and as soon as he walked out the courthouse in Mexico,
Oh, they took him to Mexico.
they took him to Mexico. They was really trying to fuck him. They wanted him to have to do his time in the Mexican prison.
All right, well, we told some stories. I think actually I do want to go, since I'll be here, we'll go. I want to do this Cartier clothing thing in Detroit. Remember we talked about the how
Yeah, we
how
should
I
do
got-
the history of French Road.
Yeah, we'll do that. So
Yeah.
okay, so American Dope, Al Prophet, go get Bound by Honor, Torn by Greed, go get Rich Big Man on Campus,
and Motown Mafia.
Motown Mafia, and watch Motown Mafia,
On Tubi, Amazon Prime.
all that.
Motown Mafia, Memoirs of a Kingpin's Kid, available at Amazon and on Kindle.
And all you Detroiters, he's finishing up this location here. There's gonna be a whole
Home
production
Motown
center,
Mafia podcast.
Hollywood, 7 Mile Hollywood.
7 Mile
together.
Hollywood. For y'all should ask somebody, your man putting it down. With the guidance, let me tell you so, and I always want to say that. You know, me and Al met as he was premiering Roland.
Okay, City of Dope,
And now, City of Dope.
YouTube name.
Your growth of your channel and what people don't know, this man grinds. Your hustle and your work
Well, I was
ethic.
making them things either by
Yeah.
myself or my friend Brian that showed
You're-
up. At best, I had him.
And your work ethic.
That's all they
This-
get you.
that-
That's all
that
that work get you there.
is more
And
than
this was
commendable.
when people weren't used to people being outside with a video camera.
With a video camera.
Not on the blocks
Not
I
on-
was on.
Not on Cascade?
No.
You still Cascade? They wasn't camera friendly?
Nah, they barely are now.
Like,
This Detroit. There's people still now with the camera activities.
yeah, we was down at the Brewsters. They was like, Junior, we love you. We'll get them up on camera. Wait.
Yeah, because it's unsolved. Hey, it's still unsolved mystery.
Yeah,
in
that's
this
Down
city.
at the Brewster.
That's what I was
Yeah,
saying.
old time
shot.
Some of the OGs was like, boy, we love you, but to get that camera away.
Cameras
Get
make
that
them
camera.
feel
There's
like-
still unsolved mysteries in this city.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, we about to really lay out this Motown Mafia podcast studio here.
Yeah.
Working on Motown Mafia too.
I'm for real. We've been saying it, but the band about to get put back together. You say Scotty be back
Wednesday.
So I'm
And
telling.
he's in town, so like the three of you can kind of put it together, and I'll just be the technical advisor.
We should do that. We can all break up the bread.
Get my
and,
white man
and on this note, so we've been doing business now for over a decade. Never no issues, no qualms, not.
There never has to. Listen, I always tell people, I don't even get in arguments. I'm in a whole nother city and made some new friends that people in that city don't deal
do
with.
it. You see what I'm saying?
It's just you don't do the kind of things that make people mad
Yeah,
at you.
that
That
shit.
doesn't mean you bow down or you're some type of sucker. It just means, hey,
You do good business.
we're doing this. We're doing this.
Yeah. You
And
mean
when-
do what you say and say what you mean? Mean what
Yep.
you say what you mean?
Yep. And then when everyone involved has an impeccable reputation, then when there is little problems and someone says, "Oh no, the money got messed up, so that's why I only sent you that," the person just says, "Okay."
Okay. Yeah, that's that. That's,
Okay.
that's that. Okay.
Okay.
That's that. That's
Yeah.
that. Brother Lou.
Yeah.
So
All right, American Dope.
American Dope, American Dope, Big Boss doing what they do.
That's right.
Again, shout out to all the family out there. If you guys are checking this out, if you're one of the few Americans not subscribing to American Dope, then obviously
Like, share, and subscribe.
like, share, and subscribe. Motown Mafia podcast and Big Boss also do the same.
Go to AmericanDope.com, get some merch.
What besides this great content we just putting together and you doing? What else you got coming though, real quick?
Well, I got the whole production
you
studio
got
in
the whole
LA.
studio
And
going now,
why
right?
are my Detroit people not coming out? You got to come out, take advantage of me. That's what
Yeah,
it's
I
there
mean,
for.
looks like if you just showing
I
me some
planted the
pictures.
flag.
Yeah,
You were
I
just
mean,
showing me
you
some
got the
pictures.
merch, the
you
shop and
you
everything.
got it laid
I
out.
got a 2-4
wait a minute,
joint.
wait a minute,
Yeah,
wait a minute, wait a minute,
let's
wait a
get
minute.
this.
That's what we talking about here.
Yeah,
Tell
we
me
got all
about
kind
it.
of stuff on
That is
AmericanDope.com.
hot.
Yep, this original design by Miles High and
Wow.
yep.
All right, so how they
Shout out
get
to
how they
Miles
get
High.
AmericanDope.com.
AmericanDope.com.
Shout out to Miles High who did the animation for some of our
Oh
videos.
yeah. So maybe we'll put him back in the band too.
Miles, I know.
Yeah, Miles.
Who did?
The
Yeah, who did,
animator.
Yeah,
Oh shit! All right,
yeah.
there.
That's his design.
Okay, see.
Talented young man from Detroit, living in
Killing
LA
the
too.
game.
Yep.
Killing the game.
All right.
All
Salute.
right, salute.
Salute.
Holla at your
Peace.
man.